Hi, you're listening to She Shield, your one-stop pod for all topics personal safety. I'm your host, Sofia, and my goal is to help educate women and men on concealed carry, martial arts, and all topics self-defense. Before we start today, please take a moment to rate the podcast. We are currently sitting at 4.9 stars. And honestly, guys, I feel really good about that still. This podcast isn't meant to be for absolutely everyone. But if you like it and you can take a moment to give it a true, honest rating, which is probably going to be 5, that would be really wonderful. On Spotify, all you have to do is scroll up and hit those 5 stars, hopefully. But otherwise, this episode is sponsored by Big Tech's Ordnance, your soon-to-be favorite retailer for all of your firearms needs. BTO believes in only selling high-quality gear to responsibly armed citizens, as well as providing pre- and post-sale support. They value firearms training so much and support firearms instructors nationwide that they even pay for their own staff to train with high-level instructors to ensure that when you as the consumer reach out, you are taken care of. Today, I have Michael Arterburn of Killer Bee Tactical on the podcast. Michael and I had the pleasure of meeting, him at SHOT Show 2024. 2024.
I think so.
Yes. And I'd followed your account for a while. I've always been a big fan of what you're doing. I would love for you to go ahead and introduce yourself to the listeners, if you don't mind.
I'm Michael Arterburn. I was a cop for 23 years. I was a domestic violence detective. I was a crimes against children detective. I worked on the bomb squad. I worked on the Innocent Images Task Force with the FBI. And then did 23 years and retired, kind of fell into the social media thing. It all started when my son was looking at TikTok when TikTok first started. And I guess he was about 11 years old or so. And he came to me, it was during the pandemic, and he came to me and said, "Dad, look at this." And it was 2, maybe 9 or 10-year-old little girls twerking, wearing next to nothing. And I, as a crimes against children detective working internet crimes, I was like, there's no way their parents know that they're doing that. Mm-hmm. So he said, "You should make a TikTok." And I'm like, "What's a TikTok?" And it just kind of started from there. And I made my little safety video. And I was sitting in my office with just a lamp on and recorded like a 60-second video. And it was clunky, but I got good feedback from parents saying, "Hey, that's good information. I didn't know that. Can you answer this question?" And that's kind of how it all started. And it's just snowballed from there.
I love to hear that. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, looking back, if you were to go back to your younger self when you were a non-duty police officer and you were like, "Hey man, you're actually making money on social media now," do you think you would have believed yourself?
No, absolutely not. Like I talk to my cop friends and they're like, "What are you doing?"
They're like, "How can I do it too?" Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and most of them, your peers are your biggest critics that you respect, and they say, "Man, you're doing a great job. Like you're doing what a lot of cops, just getting the message out there on things that we see on the street." And we're restricted. We're not allowed to talk without the department's approval. We're not allowed to represent the department in any way and put out our own message on safety or whatever. So being beholden to no one is a good thing now. Absolutely.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a really big shift for you. I can't imagine.
It takes a while to come out of your shell because I pretend I'm not talking to anybody and not 4 million people because I get nervous when I start thinking about I'm just talking to my phone. I'm not talking to anybody else. Nobody's going to see this. And that's kind of the mindset I have to have in order to make it through a video.
Well, something I'd like to say, for those of you listening that maybe haven't stalked Michael's page like I have, I will tell you, I really appreciate what he does, which is he takes stories, things that have happened in real life and tells that story, but then gives insight from his experience as a detective, as a police officer, and then also gives tools on how to prevent some of those things happening to yourself or your family, and does it in just such an organic way that it truly feels like you're getting value from the content itself. And that's something I've always loved. And I got a message from a friend the other day. She was like, "I need this collab." And I was like, "All right, it's time." So I texted Michael and I was like, "We need to do this. We're doing it." So I'm glad we got this scheduled. And Michael, thank you so much for being here today. I would love to jump in first with, honestly, with child safety. That's not really something I've had many guest speakers have an expertise in. So I'd love to start with, since we just came off of the social media topic, and child safety is something that is just constantly needing more attention with the accessibility that children have nowadays. I'm old enough where guns, phones, excuse me, sorry, I was, what I'm thinking about, where phones were introduced to me at age 8, just as a way to make sure I could reach my mom when I was over at my dad's house and vice versa. I remember even my friend had this phone called a Firefly phone. It was this tiny little device. It looked like one of those little toys you would get at McDonald's with your like Happy Meal. And it had a female icon, a male icon, and then an emergency symbol. So she could only call her mom, her dad, or the police from it. And I always thought it was so interesting. And she just kind of always had it in her hand when we were walking around or when she would come over to my house. So it was really interesting to go from that to now see children doing like get ready with me's for their junior high school class. So all of that to say, what is one of the biggest pieces of biggest pieces of advice you could give to a parent who has a child who's currently on the social media apps that you've mentioned so far?
I think their first phone should be a monitored phone. I'm partnered with Bark. They use AI to monitor all of the text messages. They can monitor inside of the apps. Like on Snapchat, a lot of people think that if you send a picture or whatever and it disappears, it doesn't disappear. It's in their database. And that's not as big of a huge concern until they get hacked, which has happened several times. And then all of the nudes and all the things that kids shouldn't be doing on phones get exposed to the world. And now they're out there on the dark web. My philosophy is I'm not worried about my child having access to the world. I'm more worried about the world having access to my child. And you wouldn't drop your kid off at a bar and just drive away. And that is exactly what you're doing if you give them like a regular iPhone or an Android with no monitoring on it whatsoever. Even with parental restrictions, they can still get around them. My little girl actually she's 5 and she has a Bark watch. They make a watch now.
Oh.
So it tracks her wherever she goes. Whenever now, of course she uses it to she'll get me on the speaker on my watch and be like, and she'll be downstairs and she'll be like, Daddy, I want a grilled cheese and sliced apples. And I'm like, yes, ma'am. And I go make them.
That's so cute.
She uses for that more than anything, but it doesn't have any apps on it. It can't have apps. And it just has me, her mom, grandma, and the police on it.
Interesting.
But yeah, there's just, I've seen so much I got this run all the time was usually a grandparent that wasn't very tech savvy, and their teen would have a phone and they would start talking to somebody, some adult, and it could be, anybody. It could be, a 40-year-old man, and they think they're talking to like a 19-year-old guy. And they're like, I'll come by and pick you up at midnight. And then, grandma's like, I have no idea where my child is. Please find my child. And now I'm left with a ghost in a computer trying to find where this kid is.
Wow.
And I got that run all the time.
That's so interesting and awful at the same time. There was a reel you made that this was the first time I heard of this that brought this idea to my attention for the very first time. And you talked about how, for example, a young boy could be reached out to by what he thinks is a young female, and she sends a nude photograph and asks for one back. And then once he sends one back, because he's none the wiser, they can use that to blackmail them, and then it goes to the dark web. Is that pretty much like a common scheme?
Even worse, it's called sextortion, and they used to exploit girls like this. The guys that do this are businessmen. Even though they're dirtbags,
right,
they're out there for the money.
Right.
So what they'll do is this conversation happens within 8 minutes, from hello to nudes.
Mm.
What they'll do is they'll say, well, guess what? I'm not a 15-year-old girl or whatever. I'm actually a man. And you're going to get in your
Mm.
parents' pocketbook and you're going to give me all their driver's license information. You're going to give me their credit card numbers and you're going to send me $500. And if you don't do all that, I already have your friend list and I'm going to send this photo you sent me to all of your friends. And you have one day to do it. Never comply with these people. When that happens, cut them off. Now there have been boys that have killed themselves over this because
Mm-hmm.
they're keeping a secret from their parents that they're gay or whatever.
Yeah.
So my best advice, one of the silver linings of this happening with AI is that guys are taking school photos and with the face and then putting a nude body on them. Now that's
Mm.
terrible, but it actually ends up being a good thing because your child can now say, that's not me, that's AI. If it does get
Mm-hmm.
released, sometimes they release them, sometimes they move on to the next target. Because like I said,
Right.
they're businessmen. They want that money. They don't want to waste time with somebody they're not going to get money from. Never send them money because that never ends.
Right. Absolutely.
Now, if something like that does happen,
Mm-hmm.
you can go to missingkids.org. That's the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They have a program called Take It Down, where they can notify all of like Google and anybody out and all the electronic, the internet industry out there. They will give the photo that your son sent a number. And that number it's a hash number. And that number is more specific than a fingerprint.
Mm.
So anytime that number shows up, the company will know this is an illegal photo and they won't allow it to be
Huh.
sent. So like Yahoo or Microsoft or anybody. So they'll flag that photo and then send a message to somebody like me saying, hey, this person sent this photo, which is illegal. And we know like the name and the date of birth and all that on this victim. And that's when I started an investigation. But yeah, it's a huge resource. And not a lot of people know about it.
No, absolutely not. And remind the listeners where they can access that. And I'll link it in the show notes as well.
Sure, it's missingkids.org. And
Okay.
what they'll do is fill out a cyber report. And that's
Mm-hmm.
for anything that is involving a kid and is wonky online or you don't think it looks right. I got
Mm-hmm.
those reports all the time.
Okay.
And they were a huge resource to me because they have a team that kind of filters through what is, it may be gross, but it's not illegal. And
Mm.
they'll send the illegal stuff to me. And they're also partnered with the FBI. So if it's like a huge case where people are like trafficking, the FBI gets the case.
I see. Okay. I would love to know at what age should this conversation with kids start? I'm not someone who has kids currently, but I am an aunt now. My nephew just turned 1, and I'm already thinking about those things. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if, say, you have someone listening who has children, what would you recommend?
It's not necessarily age specific. It is more
Mm-hmm.
maturity specific. And also if
Mm-hmm.
they're going to have access to, some parents don't want them to have any computer access whatsoever. But now with schools, you don't want your kid in the dark. You want to kind of bring them up. And at some point, just about any parent will tell you they're going to start bugging you for a phone or they're going to start
Right.
bugging you for Snapchat. And they're the weird kid because Sally has a phone and I don't.
Mm, yes.
And you know how kids are. They're gonna hammer on you every day, and especially around Christmas. And that's one of the reasons I'm like, get them a protective phone. It doesn't have to be the
Mm-hmm.
bark phone, but as far as I know, they're the ones that are doing it the best.
Absolutely. That makes sense. And um, so currently, you've mentioned to me, and by the way, if you want this bleeped out at any point, you just let me know. But you said you have a 5-year-old girl and you have a 17-year-old boy. Are those the only 2 children you have currently?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, got you. So if you don't mind sharing, what was your experience like going from that background as a police officer to then looking at your own child and being like, I want to, tell you about all the terrors of the world to protect you, but I need to kind of be strategic about this. What was that experience like for you personally?
It's terrifying because I've seen the worst of the worst. And in my perspective, that's how the whole world is. And that's how,
Mm.
like I've said before, nobody gets a pass. We don't do sleepovers because of all the bad things that I've seen. And it's because you don't know who's at that house.
Right.
And you're trusting your small child at essentially a stranger's house. But at any rate, started, I guess the more online access you allow them, you need to try to strike that balance between informing them and telling them in a way that makes an impression, but not scarring them for life. And
Yeah.
that was always the balance that I tried to get. I don't know if I achieved it, but I was kind of a helicopter dad when my son was little, and now with my little girl, probably even more. I make sure that they are safe. Period.
I love that. Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that kind of that personal account. When it comes to showing children online, this is a topic that has just recently come up in my family. My sister has asked everyone to never show her child's face online. I'm really proud of her for that. I didn't even have to tell her that. She just kind of started doing that. And I also have friends who have public accounts and they show their kids in bathing suits. And so it's a very different kind of method of thinking. What would you personally recommend to listeners?
I think I always tell parents this: you parent however you want. Because I know I have a dark perspective because of all the stuff that I've seen and the work that I've done. So I know the worst case scenarios. But for me, showing your kid online, especially with all the nude apps they have now, where, anybody can download this app, put your kid's picture in it and make it a nude. And now that's out there, whether it's, legit or not is not going to matter. And then especially if they're high school age and they do that, and they go on and they want to get a job with the FBI or the Secret Service, or they want to get a top secret clearance from like the military. Now they have to explain that photo that they didn't even take every single time that they have an interview. And it's going to be out there. Once it's on the internet, it never comes down.
Right. And you're saying it's not just a combination of people gaining access to the kid. It's actually the digital footprint of like their face being potentially applied to another photo where the torso is nude and such. Correct?
Yes.
Like
And
that's your point.
Our protection was that AI couldn't get it right. But in like 6 months, AI has figured out hands. It's figured out like how to manipulate that photo to where you can't tell unless you're really looking. And that'll probably change in 6 months too. We'll have to have programs that identify AI immediately, so you know what you're looking at is real. Anymore, I see stuff on X, on videos there that are completely AI, and I wouldn't know it if it wasn't for the community notes. I'm totally bought in, and I'm like, oh, that's a terrible video.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
You find out in the comments, they're like, this isn't real, and I'm like, really? I guess I'm just old.
Oh, no. Okay, so the other day, I've been trying to warn my family about this. My two sisters, my mom and I are so close. We have a group chat called the Golden Girls, and we're just really tight. All that to say, I was on Instagram the other day, and there was, and if you're listening, you've probably seen something like this. There's this woman, she's in the corner, she's a 3D cutout, but she's talking about, she has a 3D screen in the back, and she looks like she's talking about whatever they're scrolling through on the large screen. So like say the A-roll. And then she's like, people don't believe me, even though I've practiced breast reduction, I don't know, like surgery for the last 15 years of my life. And then she'll start telling you to use like this certain oil, or to like, one was like put coconuts on your boobs, just like cut open a coconut, and just like put them on your boobs. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, is that how are you supposed to do that? And I almost thought about, she said something in there about preventing breast cancer. And I was like, I should send this to my sisters and my mom. And then I looked at her face and something didn't seem quite right. Like the way her eyes were moving didn't seem normal. So I went to the comments, and it was actually people being like, this is such great information, thank you for sharing. And I was like, okay, seems legit. So I go to her page, and it's just the same woman. She's saying that in one video she's she's a podiatrist. In one video, she's a pediatrician. She's like, people don't listen to me. I've been studying pediatrics for the last 40 years. And it's like, whoa, hold on. Yeah. And then you learn that people actually sell their likeness to AI apps to then be sold to people that just want to use their likeness and their face as a talking head to sell whatever product they're using. So they build up this page of like medical information. And then in some of those videos, they'll link a medical product, and they'll be like, they told me not to share this, but I took this pill for 3 months and lost 20 pounds, and it's available with the link in bio. And like, you really buy into it. I even did that, and I knew about this beforehand. So Yeah, you're exactly right. And no, it's not because you're just old or whatever you said.
I did a video on her because I was
Oh,
buying
did you
into her
really?
too. Yeah, because
The
I'd
Asian
see her every
woman?
now and then. I'm like, wait a minute, you used to be a podiatrist. Now you're like a general practitioner or
Yeah.
whatever. Or
Like a
you're
plastic
internal
surgeon.
med.
Like,
Or, yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, I just happened to catch it, and then I was like, oh, this is AI.
Yeah.
That could be her
Amazing.
real voice too, because
Yes.
AI only needs 3 words to mimic your voice.
Speaking of, what are some trends you've seen with that when it comes to scamming?
So one of the big scams now is they will get a loved one, like and they can get there's public information out there on who you're related to and all that, and they'll call their phone and they'll get their voice, and like I said, they only need 3 words. Then they'll dump that into AI. They will make a scenario where somebody's the officer or they're a doctor or something, and your loved one can't come to the phone. But they're telling you this person has been in an accident or something like that. And then in a panic, your loved one will get on the phone and you'll think it's them. Um, and then the scammer will not want you to get off the phone. Like you cannot hang up. That's one of the rules. Because what my advice would be, you hang up and then you call them back on the official number, not the number that pops up on your phone. And they can spoof that number to where it really is the sheriff's department calling you, but they're in India or somewhere.
Hmm.
But it's all part of the scam, and they're getting really difficult to figure out what's real and what's not real.
So, do you recommend we just don't answer our phones to numbers we don't recognize?
That, but also have a family password.
Yeah.
And pick a family password that is, and I do this like right off the bat with little kids, because that's
Hmm.
also the child predator, scam is they pull up to your kid they see him out walking or whatever. And they're like, your parents have been in a horrible accident. I'm Bob. And your parents sent me to, pick you up to get you to the hospital. Okay. Well, what's the family password? Obviously there's more elaborate schemes than that, but
Sure.
just having a family password can alleviate some of that.
I really like that. Not too long ago, my mom went on a date and uh, my sisters and we treat her like she would treat us if we were going on a blind date. And so I had texted her and been like, just checking in that you're cool. This is about the time you said you'd leave. So just text me back. And she didn't. So like 20 minutes go by and I'm texting her again. I'm like, cool, 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 cool. If you could just write me, that would be great. Would hate to have to come by with a gun. Like, let me know. So she doesn't write back. They're just having a great time, turns out, by the way. And I was kind of was hoping that was it, obviously. Of course,
Right.
but of course, my 2 older sisters are calling me. They're like, Sophia, like, you need to go check on mom. And I'm like, guys, come on. Like, I'm sure she's fine. Of course, I'm tracking her and I'm like trying to figure everything out. And at one point, I get her on the phone and she's still with him. And she's just sounding kind of different because she's, obviously he's listening. So she's being like, yes, we're good. We're having a good time. And I remember being like, why don't we have a password? Like, if you could just say it, like, did you drink coffee? No, they don't have any coffee here, or something like that. Like something that's like, you can work it in a conversation. I've had that with, I had a friend recently. I had gotten out of a relationship where I it was not like safe to be in contact with that person anymore. And she was the one that instigated the call. She was like, if you need help at any point, just call me and I'll make something else up. She was like, ask me out to go get bagels or something. And she's like, it's so kind of like random but it's not like super random. There are tons of bagel places around. And I'll know that I need to ask you where you're at and like come to you. And I thought that was so amazing. So anyway, I love that idea. Yeah.
That's a good one for kids too. Like if they're at a friend's house, not sleepover, but just at a friend's house and
Right.
something's weird there, they feel uncomfortable, they can text you the broccoli emoji. And
Oh, okay. Hmm.
whatever it is, I'm on the way.
Right.
Or, you call the parents of the child and be like, hey, little Johnny didn't clean up his room. I'm sorry. He has to come home right now.
Right.
And put the blame on me. I don't mind. I don't mind being the bad guy at
Mm,
all.
I like that. Yeah, I feel like I've done that with girlfriends that have been out on dates. I'm like, if you need me, call me. I'll make up a crisis and I'll come get you and I'll show up in tears if I have to.
Right.
Like, don't
Yeah.
worry about it. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's a little bit of social engineering in there for safety. I made a joke to a friend the other day. I was like, I'm a terrible liar. Like when I compliment, it's true because I'm terrible at lying unless my life depends on it. I've had several situations where people have like come up and offered me things. And I remember even high school, this memory just came back up. I was in the football stands. I was there for one of my boyfriend at the time. And this group of kids kept trying to get me to go with them to like party afterwards. And like, I was an all-state violin player. If you thought I went to parties in high school, you're wrong. So I'm sitting there, I'm trying to get them to go away, but I'm starting to feel like they're not taking no for an answer. So I point at the police officer and I go, sorry, my dad just won't let me. I wish he would, but he's so weird. So I said, Dad, and he turned around and he was like, and it actually worked. That was actually perfect. And I held that lie. I held it through. They were like, cool, your dad's a cop. Like, what's that like? And I was like, man, he just doesn't let me go anywhere nowadays. Anyway, so no, I love that. Like not teaching your kids to lie, just teaching them to prioritize safety above all. I love that. And I'd love to know, again, I'm not a parent. I don't know what this is like, but how do you balance trusting your child with a general sense of distrust for the world? Like, how do you balance that? Like making the child feel like they are trusted, because that's so important for kids. I've just heard through my friends that have kids, and and of course I was a kid not too long ago. I still feel like I am one, by the way. And yeah, that trust is so important. So how do you do that?
I think it comes in stages. Obviously, the younger they are, there's more restrictions and things like that. And it's not to be mean; it's for their safety.
Right.
But the older they get, if they got a good track record, and you explain, this is my methodology. If you have a good track record, you're not sneaking out at night, you're not, going out and partying or whatever, you get more freedoms because I can trust you. We have a, standing rule. If you call me in the middle of the night and say, I need a ride, I'm on the way. No questions asked. You're not in trouble. But I think obviously for me anyway, it's kid specific, and it depends on their maturity and, like I said, their overall track record.
Okay. No, that's very helpful. Again, I don't have that perspective, but that makes total sense. I did have one person come on the podcast for a similar topic, and we did talk about maturity versus age. And I mean, that makes so much sense. So it's cool to see those concepts like come back up to the surface. When multiple guest speakers say the same thing, I'm always like, yes, like this is great. This is a good piece of advice to put out there. We definitely don't have to switch off of the topic of cybersecurity by any means, but I'd love to talk about safety in public spaces. I know a big concern nowadays is kids going into like bathrooms alone. And of course, there's some more niche topics within that. But when it comes to general safety out and about, where would you want to start with that? What's like the first thing you just thought of when I mentioned that? I'm curious. Pepper spray for children, or I guess for kids.
Well, it's in my state, you have to be 18 to purchase it. It doesn't say anything about anybody carrying it.
Ooh,
so
I love a good loophole.
My high schooler carries pepper spray.
Nice.
A lot of people are like, if you've never been sprayed with pepper spray, it sounds such like a small thing. We were required to get pepper sprayed in the academy to carry it, because inevitably, if you carry it and you get in a big fight and there's more than one cop there, you're going to get sprayed. So their philosophy is you won't freak out. Like, it hurts a lot, but you can still maintain safety or disengage or effect the arrest or do whatever you need to do and fight through it to get that person in custody. But you don't become a liability on the scene. So when I got sprayed, and I knew, like they tell you, it's going to hurt. It is like sticking your face in a McDonald's French fryer with your eyes open. That's how it feels. And it, like, the fight is over, but the pain is so intense. Like, they had told us what was going to happen. And I was like, no, I'm a special case. I'm having like an allergic reaction. This can't be this bad. And like, in my brain, I'm thinking, I need to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
That's how intense it was. But no, That's just how it works. The key to pepper spray is to get it in the eyes. So even if they're wearing glasses, you aim for the eyebrows because pepper spray will run down. I recommend pepper gel now. It's a newer concept. Pepper gel doesn't get in the air. The spray will atomize and you'll breathe it. And it's annoying. It's not, over powering or anything. But like if you're in your house or within your car, like I carry pepper gel everywhere. Now usually I'm also armed. But if you only carry a hammer, everything is a nail. And not every fight is a gunfight. Some things like pepper spray are non-lethal. So you're, as far as the use of force continuum, you're just under a punch as far as use of force. So as far as the most courts see it.
Absolutely. I am a huge pepper spray advocate. I love that you brought it up. I think that's lovely. I know you work with Sabre. I work with Palm, which like in my head, I was like, should we do this? Should we like have a discussion about the two brands? Which, by the way, there's a video I'd love to link under this. This guy actually like took all of the most popular pepper spray brands and he tested them outside. And he was like, I spent like $300 on these pepper spray. I know. And it was actually really fun to watch. And he includes Sabre. He includes Palm. There's one called like Bulldog. There's one. No, that name just escaped me. Bulldog's definitely one that I remembered because he got some like blowback, some cross contamination. And he was like, hang on, we need to take a break. And then the camera cut. So no, but pepper spray is a lovely tool. Chuck Haggard is someone I've trained with a few times of agile training. He talks about it being the tool between a harsh word and a gunshot. And it's not a perfect quote, so it's not verbatim, but I really like that concept. And I love the hammer and nail analogy. And it's non-lethal, so like you don't have to worry about your kid like permanently harming themselves. And I really love that you brought that up. Is it something that they take to school? I feel like that's.
I told mine, we'll deal with that. If you pull it out and have to use it, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I don't think they're supposed to have it, but when I'm weighing what could happen, which evil do I prefer? Right.
Yes.
So, but yeah, pepper spray takes unlike a firearm, it takes very little training. I mean, you just spray it. It's not a deadly weapon, so you can conceal it anywhere and take it just about anywhere. If you have checked baggage, you can put it in your checked baggage. Now, I recommend putting it in like a Ziploc bag just in case something happens. Yeah, you don't want your clothes all coated in it if something happens. Right. I've never had a problem with it. Another strategy, a lot of people don't do checked baggage anymore. They just do carry-on, and they fly all the time. And my advice was, it's $10 on Amazon. Get the address of your hotel, send yourself one, like do a little planning 2 days in advance and send it to your hotel. The hotel will receive it and you'll have pepper spray for however long you're there. Yeah. And then give it to one of the staff that could use it. My only recommendation as far as brands go is just buy from a reputable brand.
Yes.
I won't name them, but they're on Amazon. And they said there's 30 bursts in here, and I sprayed it, and there was a 3-second burst, and the can was empty.
Oh.
Pepper spray's made from peppers, in the ground, and just like anything else, they have different strengths at different seasons and different times of year. I want my company to make it the maximum it can be for humans. And they have to test it to find out, like every batch. So those are all important things as far as pepper spray goes. But the little amount of training and how effective it is, I don't know. It just as far as like self-defense and things like that, it's kind of the easy button, and it's it's affordable. It's $10.
Are you ready to step up your shooting game? Introducing Walkers Inc., the pioneers in ear protection for shooting, hunting, and commercial applications. For over 25 years, they've been revolutionizing the industry, ensuring your hearing safety and enhancing your shooting experience. Anytime I'm on the range, indoor or outdoor, I use Walkers ear protection to have crystal clear communication with my fellow shooters. I personally use the disruptors for outdoor shooting and the recons for my indoor shooting adventures. Not only does it protect your hearing, but it also protects you. Being able to communicate with others on the range is vital to personal safety. You shouldn't have to sacrifice your safety when the ultimate goal is better self-protection. With walkers, you'll experience unparalleled comfort, unmatched innovation, and the industry standard in shooting ear protection. Don't settle for anything less when it comes to your safety and enjoyment on the range. You can save on Walker's ear protection and support the podcast by using code SHESHIELD20, that's SHESHIELD 20 at checkout. Again, that's SHESHIELD20 at checkout. I really like that. Yeah, I wish I would have considered pepper spray to carry with me in high school. And I'm not necessarily recommending on here that a high school kid take this advice and then go take check your rules and everything and like just make sure you never get caught. But all of that to say, I definitely had a situation in high school where I wish I would have carried that. I carried a knife, which was like, looking back, I'm like, whoa, I did not know how to use that thing. I still don't. I don't carry a knife now because I have not trained and I would not realistically be able to pull it out and use it. And at that point, it's just going to be a tool that like takes time and space and doesn't actually get used properly. I'd rather use my hands. I'd rather, create distance, all that stuff. All of that to say, I really like the idea of giving it to younger ones. That's all I'm trying to say. I second that completely. And I agree, like test out the brand and get a trainer. I know Sabre has a inert unit as well as Palm pepper spray. They both make an inert unit. Whichever one you decide to carry, get the trainer for that one because it's going to be the most accurate. I know Palm has more of a stream as opposed to the kind of silly string gel projection of the Sabre unit. So like knowing what it's actually going to do when you hit the button is important. So anyone listening, you can always like order the active unit and the inert unit and just like bundle it and then train with it. So
I agree that on anything, the first time you use it shouldn't be the test.
Right.
Like when you need it, you
Yes.
should test it, see what's going to do, like how far it sprays, because different cans spray different lengths. Like on the department, I probably sprayed 50 people in my career. I've only had it not work once, and it was working. The guy couldn't open his eyes, but he was completely crazy, and he wasn't feeling the pain. Wasn't overwhelming. He just couldn't open his eyes. But I also gave this guy my best shot in his legs with my baton, and he didn't feel it.
Right. Did he have any drugs in his system, or was he just highly motivated?
No, not that I know of. He was mentally ill.
Gotcha.
The run was a naked man running through the neighborhood. And I was like, okay. And when you get that one call, you're like, this is a prank call.
Right.
And then you start getting multiple calls on different locations where he's going, and he's running toward the hospital. And I'm like, okay, maybe we can help this guy. And he was out of his mind. And his rationale was he was invisible. His clothing was not. And I'm like, when the crazy people start making sense, I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. But he didn't want to be taken into custody. He was a fighter. We ended up getting him to the hospital and getting him help that he needed, but it was a mess.
I cannot imagine. That is pretty wild. Yeah. No, that's good to know. That's a really big advocation point for the force continuum. So having lethal means if needed, because some people are so motivated. And that's something I've really tried to talk to my sisters about. And I bring up my middle sister a lot because she's just so kind. She just expects the best out of people. And I'm the opposite. I'm a guilty until proven innocent. She's an innocent until proven guilty. And so I've told her, like, all it takes is someone incredibly motivated. And you have to have something that, equalizes the playing field. She's kind of starting to get into firearms, which I'm so excited about. But I'm hoping to get her a rose as her birthday gift. That's something I've been working on, or not birthday gift, wedding gift, excuse me. And I've been starting to talk to her fiance about having a gun in the house. And that's something I've tried to talk to them, which home defense is another topic I want to get in with you, but I would love to pivot slightly. We've been talking about this concept with kids, so I guess it's not a true pivot, but kidnapping prevention. I know that's something I tend to have a very concentrated For You page on things that are taken from CCTV footage of either children getting taken, young adults, like anyone really nowadays. So what would you say the number one misconception is about kidnapping when it comes to keeping your children safe and preventing that?
Um, Stranger danger is what we were taught. It's from working in crimes against children. If you want to talk just numbers, the strangers aren't the big danger. It's usually somebody that you actually know. It's somebody in your circle. Um, Usually, and it's popular because there's been movies about it, about human trafficking.
Yeah.
And the way most human trafficking works, as far as the numbers go, are they're usually at-risk kids. There's usually some kind of substance abuse problem in there, and there's usually a history of like sexual abuse or something like that in the home. And those kids end up, I don't want to say willingly, but it's not completely against their will going with these traffickers. And then when you catch them, it's very difficult to get the truth out of the kids, because the life they're living now is better than the one that they were coming from. And it's very frustrating because these kids have never been arrested before. So there's no fingerprints. They're very difficult to identify. And if they have their story down, which most of them do by the time, you run into them, it's hard to disseminate what is actually going on. And sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes there's, a record somewhere. But I think as far as like your home security, it's good to have cameras. Like the Ring cameras are so affordable now, or any kind of doorbell camera.
Yeah.
I have cameras all over my house. I have one in a common area that, it tells me before I even get home, it has a motion sensor on it and night vision. So if I get home and it's late at night and I want to know if I know he's gonna be in my house because of my dogs, but it ends up being a dog camera actually, because I want to see what my dogs are doing.
Yeah.
But say you live in an apartment and you live alone and you're getting off work and you're coming home, the motion sensor will tell you whether somebody's in your house or not if they get in front of that camera walking through the common area. So a lot of people, I tell them, just have it pointed at your front door. But night lights in the home are big, and that's a really simple fix. I have some that are LED. They're very low energy, and you just plug them into the outlet, and that gives you enough light to where if there is a home invasion in the middle of the night, you can see enough to see your target. Because I got kids, and I don't want, I think something's going on, and it's just my kid getting a snack in the middle of the night. I want to have enough light to identify my target.
Right.
But even like college dorms, there's lots of security measures you can take as far as like window sensors. If somebody opens the window or if they bang on the window, that sensor goes off and it is loud. You're not going to sleep through it. And they're wireless. You're not like causing any permanent damage. Like it used to be, to have a security system, a lot of landlords didn't want it because you could damage stuff running wires and all that. Well, now they're wireless. So basically they're either battery operated or you can just plug them in. There's quite a few security options out there. You just kind of have to think outside the box a little.
Absolutely. I love that. I hadn't even considered dorms. That's not even something I thought about. I think it's because actually my first dorm was ground level. And then my second dorm, I was level like 15. So, I mean, they could have scaled that wall, but also I'm pretty sure we had like steel bars on those windows. But all of that to say, yeah, that's a really good point. I'm actually moving into an apartment soon, and I looked at the property map, and I pulled up like the property map and the kind of floor plan, and then I pulled up Ring like next to it, and to have like, it's really not bad. Like if you're thinking long term, right? It's $550 for like an outdoor security spotlight. So like if someone walks by the garage, it will like shoot light at them and start recording. For a front door camera, and then to arm every window and door, I had to get like enough of those sensors, and then of course a base station. And I mean, that's a one-time fee that I can take to every house I live in and build on as I get a larger house, more access points and stuff. So I love that you brought that up.
Well, you brought up the first floor versus second floor. You are more at risk on the first floor, but you're not safe on the second floor, especially if you have a sliding glass door. A lot of people forget to lock the sliding glass door, first of all, they're a huge vulnerability.
Right.
I mean, you're only as safe as your thinnest pane of glass.
Right.
But as far as sneaking in, I've talked to lots of burglars that are like, man, I can scale and get up on the second floor, no problem. And lots of people don't even bother locking their sliding glass door. Or I could take a screwdriver and lift up the door and slide it open. And I've demonstrated that on a video when the Idaho 4 happened. My theory was that he gained access to the sliding glass door, and that's how he got in, and that's definitely how he left. But just showing how easy they are to open, and a prevention, and it's super easy, is to take a dowel rod, go to like Lowe's or Home Depot, and either they can cut it for you or you can cut it. And you get it cut for the length of the track. And then you lay that dowel rod, which looks like a broomstick. You lay that down in there, and that's your security system.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, I've heard of, well, we had a sliding glass door in one of our homes when we were younger, and my mom was very serious about, I was in martial arts at the time, so we had like a short staff, like a wooden short staff, as opposed to like a long staff, and we would put that in the crevice so that if you opened it, it would only open like maybe an inch. But getting one to fit exactly the size, yeah.
Well, my thing is, I don't want them to be able to sneak in. I know, my house is now a vault. If somebody really wants in, they can get in, but I don't want to be sleeping and then having them stand over me and waking up to that.
Yes.
I want my dogs to go crazy. I want layers of protection to where, my strong point is my bedroom door. And I have self-defense methods within that room that it will give me my best shot.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Something a guest speaker brought up in a recent episode is having a firearm on every level of your house. Like if you are someone that uses firearms as home defense, having one that's actually upstairs and downstairs, and like accessibility points. That's not something I had thought about before. I'd only ever had one up in my bedroom. And then if I carried that day or I off body carried, that bag would be like usually right around me. But I'm currently in a house that has 2 floors and it's pretty spread out. It's a pretty large house. And then I'm moving into like a 1-bedroom, kind of like, one bedroom. I'll not give any more specifics than that. But then I only have to think about one. But here I have them like pretty much all over the house because I have to. If someone breaks in down here and my only gun is up in my room, I mean, kind of a struggle point. So I don't know if that's something that you talk about or
That's a great idea. My only thing is that because I'm always thinking like a parent and having like I told you that I used to make a shooting of a child where a child got a hold of a firearm probably once every 6 months. And those are all awful. And they're so easily preventable that I'm very big on having an easy one-handed access safe of some kind. And it could even be for a long gun. They make ones that will mount to like your closet bedroom, inside behind the clothes. And I guess it's like a claw and it locks around your long gun and then, and it can't be fired until, you use your code or your biometric opening or whatever it is. Right. But I can't emphasize that enough. And a lot of people are like, well, it might take me an extra second to get to it. And I'm like, yeah, but what's your kid's life worth? So
yeah, absolutely. I definitely don't have to think about that right now. But then again, my little nephew just started walking. So yeah, I do have to think about that. Oh my God, he comes in one day. I have so many guns I need to move.
I also don't want to give a burglar a firearm.
Yes.
So like when I come home, I don't want to be in a gunfight with my own gun.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be pretty embarrassing. I mean, I was just kidding. No, for sure. That's something I've thought about before. Like, what if I carried a knife, not really knowing how to use it, then it gets taken from me? I feel like that's a thing that a lot of people think through. They're like, my own weapon could then be used against me. And it's like, that's worst case scenario. Yeah.
Well, and it's good to have people that have been in real life self-defense situations or in combat, and you get an idea of how these things actually work against the human body.
Right.
A lot of people talk about stopping power. Stopping power is shot placement.
Yeah.
I don't care if you get hit with a 22 in the heart, you're dead. Now it may take 3 seconds, but you're still dead.
Right.
Whereas if you hit like not a major artery, it's now a timer. It's not an off switch. And a lot of people think that, oh, this bullet is an off switch, and it's not.
Right.
In most cases.
Absolutely. And would you say that goes back to the motivation thing? Like if someone's highly motivated and
or on meth, or are they actually feeling it? I've talked to people, officers that have been stabbed, and they didn't know they were stabbed because the adrenaline was going. And then they're like, did I pee on myself? What is this, on me? And it's their blood.
Yeah. That's wild. Yeah, that's wild. Because I'm thinking of like John Wick, right? Like it's like one stab wound and they're like, ah, and then they're dead. They fall over. It's completely done. Sometimes it's more realistic. Sometimes he has to like, deliver multiple strikes or whatever. But yeah, that's a really good point. Or like someone gets shot in a movie and it's like their shoulder and then they like fall over and it's done. And it's like, yeah, it gives a very unrealistic expectation, I think, to the outcome.
I think when you're in, that could happen to you as well. Mm-hmm. So one of the classes that I've been to, they took a gallon of milk and they colored it red. Because a lot of people, including me, when I see my own blood, I'm very concerned. Mm-hmm. So they take the gallon of milk and they pour it out in the street. And they're like, this is how much blood you can lose and still be in the fight. So, it gives you confidence on not only on yourself, but, if you lose the ability to draw your firearm, like on your strong hand, because you got hit in the shoulder, and I know somebody that this happened to, you need to know how to switch to your offhand and reload one-handed. But those are all skills for down the road once you become, more proficient with your firearm.
Absolutely.
But there's always more to learn.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a very good point. That's definitely a good response to people that think offhand shooting is silly, or sometimes we'll get a stage in even USPSA where, of course, I use that sport as a means to grow my skills with the firearm in general, which of course applies to self-defense in that way. I'm not using it to like, it's a sport, it's a gamified, thing. But all of that to say, anytime we get offhanded shooting stages, I'm always like, dang it. But it also always shows me how much I need to go and actually work on it. So it's always a good reminder to put out there no matter what. I love that.
It's like switching hands with a pen and trying to write with your offhand. It's hard. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Geez. It's like shooting for the first time. It's awful. It's so humbling. Yeah, absolutely. It makes you feel like you're so much better with your strong hand. When you go back to strong hand, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm so good. I'd love to know, we were talking a little bit about home defense. I've noticed you have put content out about hotel safety. And that's something that I've recently had to think about. I've been traveling. I think this is the longest I've been home in one place in, 6 months. I've been home for a week, and that's insane for me because I'm just jet setting, middle class business, or sorry, business class, middle seat jet setting, but, keep it humble. But all of that to say, I have been in various hotel rooms, Airbnbs. If someone called you, say a loved one, and they're like, hey, I'm going to stay at a hotel, what do I need to know? What would you tell them?
First thing that pops in my head is a doorstop alarm. Those doors are made to get into by the hotel staff, but the tools to get into them are available on the internet. Anybody can buy them. The doors are made to be defeated. So it's that thing of, I don't want somebody in my room without me knowing it. I don't want them standing over me and I'm asleep. And there's plenty of videos on the internet of women telling that story. Like, I woke up and dude was standing over me. So a doorstop alarm or just a rubber doorstop, it goes all it goes through TSA in your carry-on. Hanging a towel, some of the mechanisms that flip open to keep the door from opening, you can hang a towel in there and keep somebody from using the do not disturb thing that's on the outside of your door to slip it through the cracks and defeat it. And I've made videos on that showing that, but getting a portable travel router. They're like, I don't know, $30. But not only can you use them on flights, and your whole family can use your internet, but what I like it for is I have a little mini camera that I carry that has a motion sensor on it, and I can't hook it up to the Wi-Fi at the hotel, but if I use the router, I can hook it up to the router, which hooks up to the Wi-Fi at the hotel. And it's like having your own little security system when you're not in the room. So you'll know when somebody comes in and cleans your room or any of that, or if anybody's in your room, you can just look on your phone and check. I would say those are probably the main things. They make things that are a little more robust, like a door brace alarm, but you would want to put it in your check bag, not in. I don't think it would fit in your carry-on.
Right. That makes sense. Are you talking about the door stopper that goes under the doorknob and it's like a rod? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had those in my dorm years. That was really big for me. The only problem was that my roommate, when she wasn't as, she wasn't as like safety minded as me. She would like leave in the morning and then take it off and, then it would be gone, or she would get home more so. And she wouldn't like put it back. Like she wouldn't put it, I would say like, hey, will you put it in the door when you get home? Cause I know I can't block you out. But then she wouldn't put it back. So like there was some like human error there, but, it's one thing. My sister recently went to a camp. This is wild. And they're already kind of out. I don't know if you know where Tanglewood is out in Boston. It's a really well-known location for like opera and concerts and stuff. And she was teaching there one summer, and my mom went to visit to help her move her things. And the entire house that they had these student teachers staying in didn't have a lock on the front door. And the only thing she could do was my mom Amazoned her one of those like steel bars, and she put it on her room door because she couldn't put it on the house door. Then other people couldn't get in. But she could put it on her door, and she would always check that her windows were locked and everything. But I thought that was really wild. Like they expected this group of like 8 women to just stay in this house without a door lock. And it was 2024. Like, it's not like this was like back in like the 1990s or something where it was a little bit more, people were more trusting. All that to say, I love that door bar. And it's actually like, I gift it to friends. And she actually, the same sister, just had someone she knows at the university she's at get held up at gunpoint. And she was worried that those people were going to come back, and it was a whole thing. And she actually gave her one of her door bars because she's had a few that she travels with. So yeah, you do kind of have to put it in your checked luggage. It can be bulky. It's not super heavy though. I feel like they've done really well to source materials that are sturdy yet light. So have you ever put one of those to the test, by the way?
I haven't had a door that I wanted to destroy. And that's what's going to happen. That thing's not going to give. The door is going to break, especially if it's an internal door.
Yeah.
I don't know for an external door. I don't know I'm sure everything on it would be, as far as like the latch and all that, would be destroyed. Right. Cause you'd have to kick the door in. Right. And I've kicked a lot of doors. Mm-hmm. If, a safety tip, one of the very first things I do in a new house, including the one I'm in now, is if you go to your deadbolt, your deadbolt will have these little short screws. You want to take those out, and you would put in the long wood screws. And just so everybody knows, some people misunderstood and thought I meant wooden screws. They're screws meant for wood. And those will go all the way into the plate, but they also, those teeth dig into the wood, the 2x4 that's behind that plate, and they make it extremely difficult to kick open. And it's a super cheap, super easy fix. And you get a lot more security. A longer throw on your deadbolt is nice. They make some that are really short. I prefer the ones that are longer because you get a bigger bite into that wood that's keeping your door shut.
Ooh, I like that.
And they're very, it's a super easy fix. Probably one of the most important locks on your house if you have a garage. And when we moved in, they didn't have a deadbolt on this door, and I was baffled. But the door that goes to your house to your garage, it's the most important lock. So I make sure that, and the reason is because you can use the emergency release on a garage door to get into the garage. Then you shut that garage door, and now you have all day to work on that internal door.
Mm.
Um, and they can do that by running a coat hanger in above the garage door, or now they just take a drill and drill through the garage, and then they pull an emergency cord with a coat hanger, and they're in 10 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yikers. Yeah, that's terrifying. I'm actually moving into a place where I have my own garage. So that is good to know. Yeah. And I was actually, at one point, I was like, should I put my like gun safe in the garage? And I was like, hell no. Like someone's going to like break in, back their pickup truck in, and then just like lift my safe onto that. So yeah, no, that's really good to know. Yeah. I can't imagine a garage door without a deadbolt. Like that's wild to me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this one didn't have one, and it's a super vulnerability. Also, don't leave your garage door openers if you have somebody that has to park outside. Don't leave your garage door opener in the car.
Mm,
We
yeah.
have had multiple groups of break-in gangs that go through, and they break into the car, and the person will be like, "Well, they didn't steal anything, and they didn't notice their garage door opener was stolen." And then they come back when they're not home, or even worse, I've had them open the door at night when the people were there. Um, they make keychains on
Hmm.
Amazon that are garage door openers, and they learn your signal. Um, and then that would be my recommendation.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah, and that's actually super convenient as well. I mean, you already have access to your keys. I mean, unless you're using, some of the fobs like automatically open the doors and everything, but yeah, it's absolutely worth it for safety. Um, so that's for people that park outside. Okay, I see what you're saying. And then,
And
okay.
also with the key fob the start button cars,
Hmm.
um, it is the technology used to be expensive to do this, but now it's, as anything, it's getting cheaper.
Hmm.
So and it used to be people that were stealing cars like for chop shops and to send overseas.
Hmm.
Now it's just criminals that just want to steal your car. So
Right.
what they do is they get a repeater that learns your signal because you've left it laying on your nightstand,
Mm.
your fob on your nightstand. So they get close enough to where they can get that signal, and they copy that signal, and now they got access to your car and drive off with your car. So what I recommend is having either a Faraday box or a Faraday bag. I've recently partnered with like Go Dark. They're
Hmm.
a good reputable company. Um, but it keeps that signal in that bag. So they can't steal your signal to your car and steal your car.
So how big is the bag? Like, do you just carry it around with you or?
Some of them are smaller than a wallet. I mean, they're
Oh,
made to
wow.
fit. Yeah, they're made to fit that key.
Oh,
But they
okay.
also make other ones. I think the one that I demonstrated in my video is about that big,
Okay.
like for a full size cell phone.
Hmm.
And I have a wireless mic and just drop it in there, and it cuts the signal entirely.
Interesting.
Yeah. Also
Okay.
good if, say, your kids are protesters. If you have like college age kids, and I
Hmm.
may or may not have gone to a protest when I was younger. But
Yes.
with if the protest goes sideways and now it's a criminal event, and now say the police or the federal government wants to know who was at that protest, they use it by getting the signal off of your phone that went to the cell towers.
Oh,
And even
wow.
if your phone is off, it is still communicating to those cell towers.
Mm.
Um, so it's good to have a Go Dark bag or any kind of Faraday bag for your kids or anything, so they can just pop that thing in there. A lot of people also don't want to be exposed to the RF energy that's coming off of them when they're sleeping at night.
Yes.
So it's still close to your bed. You still have access to it. It's still on, but the signal's being cut from it, so you're not getting any of that radiation.
Ooh, I love that. I put my phone on airplane mode. That's my only way of preventing that right now, but that is actually a concept I've been looking into more. And like even with Bluetooth earbuds, I'm starting to realize it's so crazy how much things are normalized in society, and then we start getting all this research and um, stories from people that are having like long-term medical issues from them. So I've been thinking about it because these are in my ears all day long, and my phone is directly next to me. I mean, it's in this little shelf I have right here, but yeah,
Well,
that's
going through
really good point.
hazmat training, the way all that works is when they find out if something is dangerous or not, is they do like, well, 10,000 parts per million and you're safe, like with hazmats and things of that nature.
Hmm.
And they call us the blue canaries because, the canaries in the mines would die. And they were like, oh, we need to get out of here because the gases are getting the
Right.
oxygen, and the men would leave. Well, they call us the blue canaries because they're like, okay, 10,000 parts per million on this chemical is safe.
Right.
And then 1,000 people get cancer
Right.
from it. And they're like, oh, I guess it's not safe. So they lower it to like 9,000 parts per million. So that's how that works.
Yep, absolutely. That's so funny you mentioned that. My dad's girlfriend works in waste management, and she's very knowledgeable about like the chemicals. She has to be. She has to understand like things that you don't think about. Like one of our like little connection points is that she handles the ammunition disposal for one of the gun brands I work with. And she was like, oh my gosh, we have a connection. But she has to understand what goes into that and how they can safely dispose of all that. And we talked about that as well. Like everything is trial and error because we are all humans setting standards for things. So it's like, yeah, of course it's going to shift. And of course we're going to find out we were wrong. And yeah, so
I'm always of the mind of, there's probably nothing to it. But as a policeman, I'm like, you never know, though.
Right. No, exactly. Yes. No, you never know. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. I have something I've been wanting to ask you. We're pivoting a little bit here, but of course, you know, it all kind of plays into it. When it comes to your journey in social media, you've built a very loyal following base. You can see that from all of your content. Of course, the ones that aren't suppressed, the content that isn't suppressed, because God forbid you use words like attacked or assaulted and things like that, or gun. Oh my gosh. All that to say, when it comes to hearing stories from your listeners, how is that experience compared to being someone who was a police officer and more involved in cases? Do you feel like you still get a little bit of that insight from people who are like trusting you with life-saving advice or anything like that?
Some things, some advice that I give is timeless. It is true for just about any generation. But with electronics and things like that, I'm told in the computer world, if you sit out for 4 years, you're starting over again, because it just advances that fast. So all of my knowledge that when I was in crimes against children is old. Now some of it still applies. The methodology has changed, but the premise and the safety measures that you would take are still kind of the same. You're still trying to protect your kids and your personal information. But another one was I used to do seminars when I was in crimes against children for parents at schools as part of a service. Just letting them know, like, this is what I see, what's out there today. This is actually like things I'm seeing in the office. One of the ones was file sharing programs. And kids would get on their, now, of course, they have their own computer, but a lot of times they would get on the family computer and they would, instead of just sharing one music file, they click the wrong button and they share the whole computer. So I'm pulling up people's tax returns because they do their taxes on their computer. All of their personal photos of like their family and all that. And I'm just some stranger out there searching for contraband photos like child pornography and things like that. But just as a goof, I would look for like the tax returns, like the little code that's on the end of the file. I'd look for that little code and all these tax returns would come up. And it's just letting parents know you kind of got to be involved on, you know, what your kids are doing and how much they're sharing in your computer, that sort of thing.
Wow. I did not even consider that. Yeah. So it's an accidental drop, right? It's not just because they shared one, they have access to it all. It's like
the click of a button.
Yeah.
Instead of sharing like the download directory, they click the C drive.
Oh, I see.
And now it shares the whole computer.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And it's not malicious. They just don't know what they're doing.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It becomes dangerous. I see what you're saying. What would you say one of the biggest pillars of your experience as a police officer, one of your biggest pillars was then that still applies now, despite the changes with technology and AI?
I would say just the whole monitoring concept. You got to be involved.
Right.
You can't just be like, here's a phone, good luck.
Right.
And that's what a lot of parents do. Their trust is set too high. If you get a monitored phone for your teen, just be ready because you're going to see stuff. I'm that way. Not my child. You know, that's something my kid would never do. The phone will alert you to things like bullying or talking about things that are not age appropriate for that child. Kids deal with so much more than what I did when I was in school. Bullying is not like something you got on the bus or when you're at school and then it stopped. Bullying is online. It is constant. It's nonstop. Even when they're in their safe space, in their home, in their room, they're getting bullied. And Lord forbid it gets out to something like Twitter, and now you have strangers dogpiling on you. And, to a developing teen, that's very destructive. So it's things like that can happen, and they happen fast. And I've gotten messages to my kid that had to do with some other teen having an adult problem. Even an adult would have a problem with dealing with this. And I was able to get, anonymously, that kid help through the school. And like I said, just be ready, because you're going to see stuff you never expected.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that. I'm excited to share this with the people in my life that I know have children or wanting to have children. This has been really insightful for me, and I'm sure I'll come back and listen one day when I'm wanting to do that as well. And also just for me and myself. I mean, I'm sure you've again, pivoting a tiny bit. I went on TikTok. This is when I had over 100K. So that's about the time you start getting really real hate. You know what I mean? You can get it in the early stages, but I'm sure you're just well aware of this beyond what I can imagine. But I got a lot of hate when I dropped out of medical school and took this industry on. I got people saying things like heading to shoot up a school. Another one was you're going from an industry where you are helping people to harming people. That one was really big. And even as a fully grown 24-year-old, you know what I mean? Even then I feel like I was very emotionally aware. I've been in therapy for a long time. I try to take inventory of my emotions and have high self-efficacy with them and not let them just run wild. But even with people coming and bullying me in that sense, I struggled with it. It kept me up at night. It was stuff that at the time I talked to my ex-husband about. I had to go through all that. And I can't imagine what that would be like now for someone who has does not have the tools I even had to deal with that stress and deal with that emotional distress. So yeah, I'm really glad you're bringing that to awareness and that we're getting that word out there. That's awesome.
It's a different world.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I would love now to ask you kind of a shift about your podcast. We talked before this, and I asked you if you were going to kind of bring it back, and only if you're comfortable talking about it here. But for those of you that do not know, Michael has a podcast. Is it just the Killer Bee podcast, by the way? Is that just the name?
Killer Bee True Crime Series.
I love it. Yes. So true crime series. Yes. So for those of you that are true crime junkies like me, and not the True Crime Junkies podcast per se, because I actually don't listen to them. I listen to 3 different ones, and you're going to think I'm insane by the end of this, but that's okay. At least I held it for the end of the episode. One is called My Favorite Murder. They're a group of comedians based out of California. One is Sinisterhood. They are a lawyer and a psychologist based out of Texas, and another one is Morbid. They are a hairstylist and an autopsy tech based out of Boston. So I've had my run of true crime podcasts, and I remember when I started listening, I was like, this is really strange. It feels kind of odd to just listen to these terrible stories. But what's really cool is all of these hosts bring this life experience and expertise to the story, and you can learn from it in a way. Of course, it's also just super entertaining because we're all secretly morbid people. But something I really like about yours is you bring your experience from being a detective, being a police officer, to the cases and apply it to real world scenarios and what you could experience today. I also, I remember hearing your voice for the first time on social media and being like, this guy needs a podcast today. And then you were already starting a podcast. So I think you had already had it up for a while at that point. But yeah, what's that journey been like for you? Are you excited to kind of get it going again? And
I'm going to try to make it less clunky. I'm going to try to have somebody do my editing for me, because that's what takes up the most time.
Yes.
I think the one thing that I bring that a lot of people don't is I've stood in the blood. I could tell you what the cordite smells like in a gunshot, in a room where there's been a homicide. I can tell you what it smells like if they've been drinking and their blood's all over the place. Um, I had college courses profiling violent crimes, and the professor was brilliant, but he worked for the FBI on profiling criminals. But he would tell you basically disassociate yourself from this scene. You can't help this person anymore. What are you seeing? Like, I could tell you on a burglary, this is a simple one. If your house is ransacked, they don't know you. If they stole the money out of the top drawer and they didn't touch anything else, they know you.
Mm.
You know who broke into your home. And that's, it's just little things like that. But also like with serial killers, that's all that I've done so far is because they're interesting. But like I did BTK, I've done the Golden State Killer, and just some of are they organized or are they disorganized? Those are the two groups that the FBI's made. And this is all relatively new science. It's like back in the 70s, I think it's maybe in the 80s is when it started. But like what are they trying to show you? If they're organized, did they bring the murder weapon? If they're disorganized, it was just a fluke and they used a rock and it was just a bad day for that person. There was a runner up in New York, and she was sexually assaulted and murdered, and that guy used a rock and it was just her day and she wasn't carrying any protection. But it was a safe area, so everybody was really surprised when it happened. But it's just little stuff like that I bring to a podcast that I don't see a lot of other people doing. So
Absolutely.
I interject my little 2 cents.
Yes, absolutely. And it sounds really cool because you got the water going in the background, the rain going in the background. It's definitely a mood setter. But no, I really appreciate when you're able to take those stories and talk about things in a deeper manner. You're incredibly respectful of the victims as well. I think that's something that when people hear true crime, they think like, well, how is this like respectful to tell this story? And it's like, it actually brings awareness around this and helps potentially prevent things like this from happening. And yeah, the runner story, I know which one you're talking about. It's insane. And that's what I try to tell my sisters, where there are people, there is danger. Like you're never truly in a safe place. You can, of course, do your best. You can take, what's in your target of control and your loci of control, and you can prevent as much as you want. At the end of the day, it can happen to anyone.
Well, like,
wild.
And protections and layers, like have the SOS button set up on your phone so you can, or on your watch. So it's the click of a button and you're calling the 911 automatically.
Yeah.
Laken Riley was jumped on her course. She didn't have a way to protect herself. She didn't have a way to scream out. If you listen to the 911, you can hear her. And it's because he's strangling her. They make a personal alarm. It weighs nothing. And it can be heard 3 football fields away. I'm not saying that, it would have done any good in that particular case, but just, you have to think of scenarios where, what if I can't yell out? That sort of thing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I remember in high school, that was the first time I saw, it was called a birdie, I think. I'm not affiliated with them. Do they still make that?
They still make a personal alarm. Yep.
Okay. Good to know. Do you work with them?
No, Sabre makes one. It's lighter. I don't know as far as comparably how loud they are.
Gotcha.
You won't sleep through it. I'll tell you that.
Right. Absolutely.
But it's made to be extremely light, and it's made for runners. And you just clip it to your body somewhere if you're running. They also make a runner's pepper spray that's in your hand, and it's intentionally small. So that you can run with it and it doesn't impede you. But your defense is already in your hand and ready to go. And they make one now that has like a LED light on it. So if you're running at night, you can be seen. My wife carries these, and she's a runner. So, anything that I talk about, that I promote, I trust my family with it. And I've used it. So, I try to have some experience in it, and I don't take recommendations from just anybody. You have to have a good product. And if I test it and I break it, I'll make a video on it. So I tell companies, just be ready for that, because I'm going to put it through its paces. And some of them are like, well, never mind.
Right.
I'm
Oh, yeah.
like, okay.
That's what I thought. Yeah. I there was a time where I was like, no, off body carry is bad. And now I'm developing my own bag with a company because I was kind of tired of there not being an option for like dressy outfits that was safe and efficient. And this one brand reached out to me on 3 different occasions. 3. They like switched marketing teams enough where they had someone come back to me every time. And I'd be like, yes, you are welcome to send me a product. Here's what's going to happen. I'm going to test it. I'm going to be brutally honest, and I will post it. And then they would just ghost me. And I thought it was so funny. I would like every time they would write me again, I'd be like, hi, so I've actually had this conversation before. But yeah, you can tell a lot by a brand that's like, yeah, put the product to the test. And yeah.
Well, I recommend crossbody bags for like if you're in a foreign country or whatever, because the pickpockets are so bad.
Yes.
Well, it's in crime. It's build a better mouse trap. And it goes back and forth all the time.
Right.
So crossbody was trying to keep the purse snatchers from grabbing your purse. It makes it harder.
Right.
Well, they would ride in a 2-pair group on a moped. The guy on the back would sit facing backwards. He'd jump off, take a razor or a seatbelt cutter and cut off your strap and just take the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And if you're carrying, if you're in the States and you're carrying a gun in there, that's a big deal.
Yes.
What I had recommended some crossbody bags start doing is making it so that you can't cut that.
Yes.
Like there's a piece of steel in there.
Actually, my bag that I'm dropping very soon has cut resistant webbing here.
That's great.
And
That's
the
awesome.
hardware is it's super, super tough. In fact, I want to take one of the earlier prototypes that uses the same cording and I want to like try to break it. Same thing with the magnets. They're incredibly durable to where it's like if they were to like, we want to make sure like if these magnets hit several times, as in like hundreds of times, they never break, but that they're strong enough to where this isn't just going to fall open and then the gun is exposed. But actually, the woman I developed this bag with, she had a couple bags at one point that were in the earlier prototype stages. And so she was like, well, I'm going to cut the hardware out so that I can use the hardware. And she could not cut the hardware out. And she was like, dude, these actually work. I have a story. She was like, it was early stages when I started using this and I wanted to use the hardware because it's expensive. Because she buys good hardware. She wants to make sure these bags aren't going to get torn off of people. And anyway, all that to say, yes, that is so important. The steel's another great one. We were kind of going for like lighter weight stuff. Like the bag already gets heavy with the gun. So we're always looking for ways to like maintain the high quality leather while also, being able to hold the gun and be light enough. Sure. So yeah, I love that you brought that up. That was a shameless plug there because we did not talk about that before this episode. But anyway, no, I love that. Thank you. And I know that gun content isn't really something you're super heavy on right now, which is understandable because if I were in your place, I also would not want to I wouldn't want to lose it. In fact, my TikTok got banned because of my podcast. I had stopped showing guns. I had stopped even showing blue guns. I stopped saying the word gun. And then when I started posting my podcast highlights, like taking a clip like this, stacking it and posting it, if the guest speaker said like competition shooting or like my concealed carry weapon, that's what got my my page banned ultimately. So
yeah, when they said TikTok was going to go away, I was like, good.
Right? Honestly, yes, I know. It's crazy.
I'm hoping they loosen the strings a little bit if somebody else buys them. I don't know if that'll happen or not, or it'll just be more of the same. But anytime I talk about something pretty heavy, I'll put it on YouTube. And honestly, I don't care if it gets demonetized, if it's important information.
Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of walk a fine line with firearms.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Is there anything you would want to add to the discussion today? I know we talked about the force continuum, but and we can keep this off of the social medias to be safe if you want. But yeah, anything there?
I have a few helpful links on my my webpage, killerbtactical.org. And like if you want to know how to set up the security parameters and lock down roadblocks, because Roblox, a lot of parents don't know. They think that's a kid's game, therefore it's safe. It's not. There's tons of predators on it. You need to have the mindset of anywhere kids are, that's where the predators are going to go. Mm-hmm. And they will get jobs as like daycare workers or whatever. So you always have to have that in mind, is that there's no real safe place and nobody gets a pass. And I don't care what your title is, policeman, clergyman, nurse, nobody gets a pass. But I have a few links on there that can, help you set up roadblocks or just a few other quick tips, like with concealed carry. One of the really useful tools I have on there is that if you travel from state to state, I can click my state and then I can click the state I'm going to, and it will show me the differences in the concealed carry laws. Because I don't want to accidentally violate some law. And that's especially true if I'm flying with my firearm, because I don't want any surprises.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Every time I pass the like TSA pre-check thing, and I go to standard boarding because I'm lazy and I haven't gone to the TSA office. But anyway, moving on. And it says like no guns. I'm always like I'm checking my bag. I didn't realize I flew to Mexico with, I took the Vertex Ghost Urban Ghost backpack that has like the concealed carry pocket in the back. And my holster was in there without a gun, obviously, but I totally forgot about that. And I was like, I could have easily accidentally left a gun in there because that concealed carry pocket is so truly concealed. It has a big pull tab. Don't get me wrong. You need to access it. You can access it. But all that to say, yes, those are great resources. Completely agree. I like that.
I had to completely revamp when Turks and Caicos was arresting people for empty shell casings. They were taking, because they used their range bag, and one guy, and it's a 15-year mandatory minimum. They had just changed the law. They changed it back since then. But there were Americans sitting in prison there because they had ammo or shell casings in their bag. And they didn't catch them coming into the country. They caught them trying to go back to the United States. So I was like, and I went to Turks and Caicos. I was like, dude, that could have been me.
Dude, that could have been you. So
what I do now is I have two separate range stuff. Like one thing doesn't touch the other thing.
Yeah.
But also, anytime I'm traveling, just to be safe, because I might have a knife in there. I've thrown away so many Swiss Army knives.
Yes.
Because I've carried it since I'm a farm kid. I've carried it since I was a kid.
Oh.
I carried it to school. Nobody knew.
Yeah.
But what I do is for my carry-on, my travel backpack, I empty every single pocket on my bed. So everything that goes in there, even if it's a pen, I keep track of it. One way you can make really good friends with all the flight attendants is get $5 Starbucks gift cards and give them to them when you get on the plane.
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
I like to take care of people that are taking care of me.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Everybody craps on those people, and they have such a hard day.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So I'm like, here, coffee's on me.
Oh,
and of course, I have my little Killer Bee, tactical thing on there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's it's inexpensive, and if you travel, it's a good way to make friends with the flight attendants.
Oh, I love that. That's so cool. Yeah, I actually have this one airport that I'm probably going to start flying out of very consistently, and yeah, I should do something like that. I really like that. I always see flight attendants, and I'm like, thank you for your service. Like you are doing the most. Like, and if you think people are mean to waiters, I mean, Jesus. Yeah. Anyway, but yes, I love that. That's so sweet. And
I also know if something happens on the plane, I'm not going to be the guy to just sit there.
That's a good point.
I can't just sit there. I'm going to have to respond in some way.
Yeah.
And with my wife being a physician, we kind of got both angles covered. If somebody has like a medical emergency or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I love that.
I don't know. It's nice to know that, like, my face, who I am.
Right. No, that's really lovely. I really like that. Yeah, I've thought about that. Did you see that terrible video of the guy trying to pull the exit door off of the plane? And for 20 seconds, no one moves. It's wild.
Yeah.
Someone's filming it and no one's jumping up. And so now when I choose seating, I feel so guilty when I choose a window seat, because I'm like, if I'm going to go prevent someone from taking an exit door off, I'm going to have to now climb over Mr. Middle seat and aisle seat and then get over. And it's like, I mean, I do it, don't get me wrong, but yeah, I feel weird sleeping on flights too, because I'm like, that's like 5 seconds I have to come to if something goes wrong. And that's if I even hear it through my noise cancellation. Like, it's kind of wild nowadays. It's wild. And I feel like I always hear about a flight where something crazy happens. Sorry, go ahead.
I always sit on the aisle because I know I'm going to be the guy that wants to respond. I want to be able to jump up.
Yeah.
I've had a fight break out on a flight. It's
Really?
always over something dumb, but two guys,
Always.
going ham over something small. Um,
Jeez.
and people are under stress. A lot of them are drinking. A lot of them don't know that alcohol is 3 times stronger when you're in the air at altitude than when you're on the ground. So if you're having cocktails on the ground and you get on the plane, you're going to be drunk when you get up to altitude.
I didn't realize that.
And
I've
that's
never
why
had a
people,
drink on a plane or before.
I've had one because I was like, I'm going to Key West,
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Relaxing a little bit. Yeah.
but I rarely drink in public because I always want to be, with it.
Yes,
But
100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
because if something happened and I couldn't respond,
Yeah.
I'd be like, I've failed.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm with you on that. Just because of my, like, I know enough to help, and it's like I would feel it's like my duty at the end of the day. And like I know yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's kind of scary to think about. But I fly so often now, I'm like, could this be the one? Like, yeah. I also have this terrible habit. This is so off topic. I crack up during turbulence. It's a coping mechanism. And I feel so bad for the people around me because I cannot stop laughing. Like if a plane feels like it's about to go down, I'm just cackling and I can't control it. It's so bad. Also, funny story. The other day I was on a plane with Lena and Jeremy. We were coming back from filming for their YouTube channel. This old man, had a cane and he had accidentally sat down in the wrong seat. So the flight attendant goes over and he's like, "Sir, you're in the wrong seat." And of course, he's very old. He's like, "Oh, what'd you say?" So he gets up with his cane, he turns it sideways and he starts walking down the aisle and he's just hitting people on the back of the head over and over again. And they're trying to tell him to stop, but he can't hear them. So he's just hitting all these people. And then of course he turns around with it. It's like, you just never know. Like you could just be sitting there and someone whacks you. Like it's pretty bad.
Well, and I tell people about this, like with road rage, the DMV does not check mental health when they're issuing a driver's license.
Mm-hmm.
So just keep that in your mind. Keep that in mind. And you don't know if somebody's going through a divorce or, if they're struggling with substance abuse or whatever. So my best advice, just let them go. Like if they cut you off or whatever, it's not a competition. Just let them drive and wave. Be like, sorry, and not with one finger. Just
right,
because the gunfight can happen that fast.
Yes, I had that talk with my sister. She's a Boston driver. She lived in Boston for too long, and now she's like tainted. And where were we the other day? She flipped someone off, and my mom and I were like, "No, you can't do that. People have guns. Yeah. Like people will chase you home. Like." They'll actually convince themselves they're in the right to go and attack you because you hurt their feelings. Like there are people with like zero emotional regulation and wherewithal. Like we had a big talk with her. We were like, you can't do that. Right. My joke is always that my sister's going to be the one to like get me in a fight because she stands up for people too in public all the time. And I'm always like, we were at a gun store the other day and one of the guys was talking to another guy at the counter and he said like, "Get the F out of the way" to the guy, but she thought it was to the girl. And all these guys are wearing guns on their hips. We're just trying to buy some ammo so we can go to this range that's outside because I didn't want her she's an opera singer. So I was wanting to get her outside so we're not, she's not having to damage her ears too badly. And she goes, "Did he just say that?" And I was like, "Jade, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter." And she was like, "No, did he just say that to that girl?" And I was like, "No, I actually do think it was at the other guy that was right next to the girl." And she's like, "No, I don't know. I don't think so." And I was like, "Jade, you need to pipe down. These people have guns on their hips. We cannot do anything about this. I have a gun on me. You don't. So please don't get me in a gunfight. Like we don't need to do this today." Because the guys were already kind of like, I don't know, they were kind of goofing off. And it's already one of those situations where it's like, this is probably just coworker banter. She was like, "No, but that's a woman." And I'm like, "Alrighty, we're getting out of here." So I'm like, "Thank you all." And we walked out and I was like, "Hey, you can't fight everyone's battles. Like you have to know, like I love standing up for people. Don't get me wrong. Like I'm that girl at a bar that will come to your rescue. But when there's a dude with the gun on his hip and a girl with the gun on her hip and we're just in a gun shop, we leave." It's like, we get out of there. So yeah. Absolutely. But anyway, there's another random story for you. I've loved all this. I feel like we covered everything. We covered child safety, we covered home defense, hotel safety, Airbnb safety. Unless you have anything to say about cameras, I feel like that's the only thing, like hidden cameras. I feel like that's the only thing we didn't cover.
Hidden cameras do happen.
Yeah.
More common at places like Airbnbs and things like that.
Yeah.
Um, you'll see them. You'll see them some at hotels, but it's not super frequent. The way that you can detect them, I've not come across a hidden camera detector that works like 90% of the time.
Okay.
And if I'm going to entrust my wife with it or my kids with it or anybody listening, I want it to be dependable. And they just haven't made it yet. Or they give so many false alerts that you're like, well, does this thing work or not? But a hidden camera, the lens, it can be as small as a pen, like a pen hole. And they can be in anything. They could be, what I usually tell people is, look, pay attention to anything that's pointed toward the bed, anywhere that you have an expected right to privacy, like in the bathroom. If you're an Airbnb, they're supposed to disclose it if it's like in the kitchen or the common area, just because they're keeping an eye on their property. Those aren't illegal. But the ones that are illegal are the ones where you have an expected right to privacy. And if you do find one, you just call the police and make a police report. A lot of people are like, do I just tell the hotel? I'm like, no, you need to let law enforcement know.
Okay.
Many of them are they're wireless. Sometimes they're not connected to Wi-Fi at all. They have an SD card in them and they're, recording, and they have motion sensors. But they can be in alarm clocks, smoke detectors. I carry a flashlight everywhere I go. It's from being a police officer. But if you shine the light on it, the lens will reflect a blue purple.
Okay.
And that's how you spot them.
Okay. That's really good to know. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. This feels like a big cheat code episode of like how to just be safe no matter what everywhere. So I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and do that. As far as what I like to do at the end of episodes is ask the guest speakers what they want to leave the listeners with. I know it's such a great episode that if anyone's feeling the same as me, I feel like I have to go back through and listen to this multiple times to really get everything. So what's something you want to leave everyone with, if you don't mind?
Situational awareness is something you kind of got to work on. And you don't want to be the point of where you're paranoid and crazy like I am. But you also don't want to be, it's little things like just not looking at your phone when you're pumping gas. Knowing what's going on around you when the tide is changing and you need to leave a place, something's going down and it's not your business. And that is especially true when I have my kids with me. I am a different person when my kids are with me. Like I'm not getting involved. That is your problem. I'm protecting my children.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think situational awareness is probably, I don't do self-defense stuff. I do the stuff to keep you from having to be in a self-defense situation. So I guess that's what I would want to leave everyone with.
I love that. Well, thank you for sharing. And I'm excited to see what you do with the podcast. I like it so much. Like, I feel bad that I've only listened to a few episodes because I enjoy it so much. So I look forward to seeing what you do there. And what you have to say matters. And I hope, I hope you can get it out there more. And I wish you luck to the social media feeds. I know we've been keeping in contact about some of the gun stuff and the suppression we've been experiencing. But it's kind of nice to know you're not the only one. Like, it's not nice to know your friends are being censored, but it is nice to know it's like, okay, cool. I am still maybe doing a good thing, but I'm getting caught by some AI thing that's saying I'm not. So, it's been nice. But Michael, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So just some ending notes here. For those of you listening, the full version of this in video will be on YouTube. I always forget to say that in the beginning. I need to start making a note. But for shorts of this episode to see Michael and I chatting with some B-roll, especially for a lot of the resources he mentioned, I want to throw that in there, like the Bark phone. I actually don't even know what that looks like. I've heard you talk about it before, but it's not like in my head. So we'll definitely drop some B-roll of what that is. Visit She Shield on Instagram, TikTok, unfortunately, YouTube Shorts, all of that at She Shield Pod. All the resources Michael mentioned today will be in the show show notes. So if you were listening and you want to follow up on any of those yourself, you can scroll down to the notes below the title and you can access those there. Again, if you like the podcast, you can help by liking, subscribing, and leaving a review on whatever you are listening on currently. And if you or anyone you know is a firearms owner experiencing a crisis, look into holdmyguns.org. They are an organization that will connect you with a local gun shop or FFL to store your firearm for you. The link to access their website is also in the show notes. In the meantime, you all stay safe and stay vigilant. SOG knives began with the mission to reproduce the original SOG Bowie knife used by the Special Ops Unit MACV SOG. Today, SOG knives are carried with confidence into the most demanding situations. Forged out of tradition, hardened in the field, honed for you, whether you're protecting others or leading an epic hunting expedition, tackling one of life's everyday challenges, or facing your most extreme conditions yet, lead the way with SOG. What began as a single commemorative model soon became a full line of innovative tools, field-proven by U.S. Special Forces, even honored as the Navy SEAL knife of choice. I've personally carried SOG knives since I added knives to my everyday carry setup, and have yet to be disappointed by their design and durability. Their craftsmanship is rooted in legacy of honor and courage and is unmatched. With SOG by your side, you are equipped to lead the way, no matter the challenge. So join the ranks of those who dare to push beyond the limits and define their own legacy and use code SHESHIELD20, that's SHESHIELD 20 to save and to support the pod. Again, that's SHESHIELD20 at checkout.